Key points in this video.
Patients with PTSD often develop persistent negative beliefs about themselves after traumatic events, or have existing negative beliefs reinforced. The techniques available to help patients challenge their negative beliefs include Continua, positive data logs, and the prejudice model. These techniques are used in conjunction with work on updating trauma memories, and are especially useful for patients who have very generalised negative beliefs about themselves, for example following repeated negative experiences in childhood or adulthood. Continua encourage patients to challenge their black and white thinking and see things in an alternative way. Positive data logs then give patients a way of systematically gathering evidence for the new belief. Techniques such as imagery rescripting or memory updating can help patients to strengthen their new beliefs on an emotional level. In this video, you will see a therapist introducing a positive data log with a patient who developed negative self-beliefs following a sexual assault. Anita was raped when she was 19 years old on the way home from a party. She had developed strong negative beliefs about herself since this trauma, including "I am unlikable." Anita had been working on this belief in therapy, using cognitive restructuring and more recently using the continuum method. Using these techniques, Anita had been able to begin to consider a more balanced belief that she is likable. The therapist now moves on to introducing the positive data log as a way of building on this new belief of being likable.
So Anita, it sounds like you've done a lot of really good work on this belief, and I'm wondering what you think the next step could be. How could we keep on building on this belief that you might be likable?
I don't really know, to be honest. Don't have any ideas. Yeah.
Understandable. Well, one idea I've had is something that we call a positive data log, or kind of keeping a positive diary.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is this idea that perhaps at the end of every day you could keep a record of at least 3 positive things that have happened in that day that fit with this new belief that, that you're likable, or that something happened that shows that you're liked. So what do you think about that sort of idea?
Yeah, I think it's okay. Yeah, I think I can do that.
Okay. So I'm wondering what examples we might be able to think of that could fit with being likable, or that show that you were sort of, somebody showed you that you were liked that day.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, if someone's like said something nice to you, or sort of asked how you were, that kind of thing might be evidence for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is that thing of really collecting evidence that you're likable and that you're liked by the people. And sometimes we could do this by kind of keeping a sort of crib sheet that we could come up with together, so sort of coming up with some examples and ticking them off. Or it might be that you could get a sort of journal. I know you mentioned before that you keep some sort of record of what you've done each day.
Yeah, like a diary.
So a diary. So you could keep it in your diary, or other people keep it as a sort of note on their phone, for example. And I guess the key thing to remember is that they don't need to be huge, big things that are signs that we're likable, that somebody likes us. But it could just as well be sort of small things like, I don't know, somebody asking how we are, or somebody offering to make you a cup of tea or something.
Once the rationale of the positive data log has been given, the therapist asks the patient for some examples from the past few days. The therapist encourages the patient to be specific about the examples so that the information is more meaningful.
Are there any examples you can think of in the last few days, for example, that come to mind?
Well, my colleague texted me yesterday, actually. She was like catching up on how my weekend was.
Okay.
And my other friend, she told me the other day, she said thank you because I was listening to her. She's having a problem, and she was like, oh, thank you for being a good listener and stuff, so that was nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they sound like really good bits of evidence that you're likable and that they like you. And I guess the key thing is, as you said, is sort of to keep it specific. So actually, as well as my friend texted me and asked me how my weekend was, if you can sort of add their name. So what's their name?
Vicky.
Vicky, okay. So Vicky texted me, yesterday was Tuesday, wasn't it? So on Tuesday, and asked me how the weekend was.
Yeah.
And then my other friend,
Laura.
Yeah. Okay. So she texted you sounds like, or did she ring you?
She told me in person.
She told you in person.
Yeah,
okay, so she told you in person. So just kind of enrich the detail a bit, put a little bit more, make it really specific so it kind of sticks in your mind.
Sure.
The therapist then asks the patient about which format they would like to use for the positive data log and shows her some examples.
And have you got an idea of which kind of format you'd like to do it? So I've got an example of one of the crib sheets here actually.
Yeah.
So that there could be something a bit like this with sort of a table that but we just have to come up with the qualities and we could tick them, or would you rather sort of do it a bit more openly or sort of write it in your journal? What do you think would be most helpful for you?
I think I'd probably add it to my diary, I think.
Okay.
Like at the bottom I could add it. Yeah, that'd be nice.
That sounds really good.
Here is an example of a crib sheet that could be used to log when positive things have happened that fit with the patient's new belief of being likeable. The therapist then identifies any obstacles the patient foresees with keeping a positive data log so that they can problem solve together how to overcome these.
So I wonder if we could then think together about shortly just any difficulties you would foresee with doing that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a bit worried about just sort of like boasting in my diary about how great I am and how, you know, everyone, this person likes me and this person, you know, it feels a bit weird, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really common thing that people say actually, that it would feel like boasting.
Yeah.
I guess it's interesting if we think about, you know, we were talking about breaking up this black and white thinking, sort of, you know, using this kind of continuum idea that often we kind of go from, you know, actually I don't want to talk about myself or you know, think about things that have gone well, but the opposite might feel like it's boasting.
Right.
So I guess, is there another way of looking at it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I guess it could just be saying a nice thing, like, you know, and I'm not saying it to everyone, you know, I'm not saying like, oh, I'm really great, you know, it's just like writing it in my diary. So I guess it's not boasting like that much, I guess. Yeah.
And let me put it to you another way. If one of your friends said, oh, I'm feeling quite down on myself at the moment and my therapist has asked me to keep this log and I've got to write some positive things that happened each day, how boastful would you think they were being?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't think that, no, because, you know, their therapist told them to, and it's obviously important for them, and it's, it's not really boasting, is it, really?
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, sure.
It is important to work through any perceived obstacles to the positive data log. Other examples might be fears of not being able to identify any examples, remembering to do the task, worries about the consequences of missing a day, and discounting things as not being real examples. For example, my friend just feels sorry for me. It doesn't mean I'm likeable. Once the new information has been collected from continua and positive data logs, the therapist and patient work together to include the new information about being likeable into the memory. The following brief excerpt shows how this might be done.
So I'm walking home and I'm confused and I'm cold and I'm just thinking that everything's changed and I'm a different person now. I'm an unlikable person now.
What do you know now, Anita?
So now I know that I am a likeable person and that I have lots of friends and that my best friends, they know about what happened now and they're still there for me. They still want to be there for me.
Key points in this video. Patients with PTSD often develop persistent negative beliefs about themselves after traumatic events, or have existing negative beliefs reinforced. The techniques available to help patients challenge their negative beliefs include continua, positive data logs, and the prejudice model. These techniques are used in conjunction with work on updating trauma memories and are especially useful for patients who have very generalised negative beliefs about themselves, for example following repeated negative experiences in childhood or adulthood. Positive data logs then give patients a way of systematically gathering evidence for the new belief. Patients are introduced to the concept during sessions, but need to keep the log on a weekly basis for a period of at least 6 months. It is important to identify and work through any perceived obstacles of keeping positive data logs, and to review them on a regular basis. Patients can be asked to re-rate their new beliefs on a regular basis, in conjunction with a brief review of their data logs. There are a number of ways to devise a positive data log, such as simply keeping a list at the end of each day in a diary or a notebook, writing notes on a phone, or having a specially created crib sheet that they can tick. It is important to discuss possible options with the patient to decide which would work best for them. It is important to ask the difference between how the patient feels in their heart with what they know in their heads.